It started as a typical day for Marcus and Danielle, a successful black couple out shopping to celebrate their anniversary. They walked into a high-end luxury store, excited to browse and treat themselves. But instead of being welcomed, they were met with cold stares and a dismissive attitude from a guard who clearly didn't think they belonged. Tension escalated quickly when the guard made an offensive comment and told them to leave, claiming they couldn't afford to shop there. Shocked and humiliated, the couple reluctantly stepped out, their day ruined, or so it seemed. What happened next, however, turned everything upside down. Just 15 minutes later, a manager stormed in, and what unfolded next left everyone in the store speechless. Stay tuned to find out how justice was served and why this shocking incident became a moment no one will ever forget. As Marcus and Danielle stood outside the store, frustration and disbelief weighed heavily on them. They couldn't understand why they had been treated so poorly when all they wanted was to celebrate a special occasion. Danielle tried to calm Marcus, who was visibly upset, but it was hard to ignore the hurtful words and the blatant disrespect they'd just experienced. Inside the store, whispers began to spread among employees and customers who had witnessed the scene. Some looked uncomfortable, while others seemed to question the guard's actions. Moments later, the store manager, a sharp-eyed professional in a tailored suit, walked in briskly, immediately sensing that something was wrong. He caught sight of Marcus and Danielle through the glass doors and asked an employee what had happened. As the details unfolded, the manager's expression shifted from curiosity to anger. Without hesitation, he approached the guard, and that's when the real story began. The manager confronted the guard near the entrance, his voice low but firm. Customers nearby tried to act as though they weren't listening, but the rising tension was impossible to ignore. "What happened out there?" the manager demanded. The guard hesitated, stumbling over his words as he tried to downplay the situation. He mumbled something about following store policy and protecting the image of the brand, but his defensive tone only made the manager more suspicious. Outside, Marcus and Danielle noticed the exchange through the glass. They weren't sure if this was going to make things better or worse, but they couldn't just walk away without some answers. Marcus, still upset, debated whether to go back inside. Danielle gently placed a hand on his arm. "Let's see what happens," she said, trying to steady her voice, though she felt just as uneasy. Meanwhile, a customer who had witnessed everything stepped forward to speak with the manager. What they revealed would soon expose the guard's actions in a way no one could ignore. The guard, now visibly nervous, shifted uncomfortably as the truth began to unfold. The store manager's face hardened as the customer described what they had witnessed. They recounted how Marcus and Danielle had been polite and respectful, only to be treated with disdain by the guard. The manager listened intently, his eyes narrowing as the details unfolded. Meanwhile, the guard tried to interrupt, but his excuses were brushed aside. Outside, Marcus and Danielle could feel the weight of the moment building. Danielle urged Marcus to wait just a little longer, her instincts telling her that something was about to shift. Marcus reluctantly agreed, though his patience was wearing thin. Inside, more employees began to gather, quietly exchanging concerned glances as the tension in the room grew. The manager turned to the guard, his voice cold now. "You're telling me you decided to make assumptions about these customers based on how they look?" The guard fumbled for a response, but his silence said it all. Marcus and Danielle watched as the manager suddenly walked toward the doors, heading straight for them. For a moment, they weren't sure what to expect, but the intensity in his expression made it clear something big was about to happen. As the manager approached, Marcus and Danielle braced themselves, unsure of what was about to unfold. The manager introduced himself, his tone apologetic but firm. "I've just been informed about what happened," he said, glancing over his shoulder at the guard. "First, let me say I'm deeply sorry for how you were treated. This is not how we conduct ourselves." Before Marcus could respond, the guard suddenly stepped forward, his voice raised. "I was just doing my job. They looked out of place, and I have the right to make those calls." His words hung in the air, drawing gasps from nearby customers who had gathered closer to the scene. The manager's expression darkened, but before he could respond, Danielle finally spoke. "Out of place," she said, her voice steady but laced with anger. "We were dressed like everyone else here, and we came to spend our hard-earned money. What about us made you think we didn't belong?" The guard stammered, clearly caught off guard, but before he could answer, the customer who had spoken earlier stepped forward again. "Actually," they began, then a voice cutting through the tension. "This isn't the first time he's done this. I've seen him target other people before, and it's always the same excuse." The room fell silent as everyone turned to look at the guard, who now seemed to realize the situation was slipping out of his control. The manager's jaw tightened, and the tension in the air was almost unbearable as the weight of the accusations began to sink in. Marcus and Danielle exchanged a glance. This was bigger than just them. Something needed to change, and it was clear the moment of truth was fast approaching. The manager turned back to the guard, his voice sharp and unwavering. "Is this true? Have there been other complaints about your behavior?" The guard hesitated, his usual confidence replaced with panic. Before he could deny it, another customer stepped forward. "I was here last month with my family, and he treated us the same way. I didn't say anything at the time, but now I wish I had." The weight of the allegations was undeniable, and the manager's expression shifted from anger to resolve. "That's enough," he said firmly. "We do not tolerate discrimination of any kind in this store. You're done here." The guard tried to protest, but the manager cut him off. "Hand in your badge and leave. Now." As the guard walked out, his face red with embarrassment, Marcus and Danielle finally felt a sense of justice. But just as they started to thank the manager, another unexpected twist came. The customer who had spoken out earlier turned to Marcus and Danielle. "By the way," they said with a small smile, "I recorded the whole thing. I think the world needs to see how you were treated and how the store handled it." Danielle's eyes widened as Marcus glanced at her, processing the moment. They hadn't expected their experience to gain this much attention, but now it was clear their story could spark a much-needed conversation about fairness and accountability. As the video began to circulate online, the incident became a turning point for more than just Marcus and Danielle. It was a wake-up call for the entire community. In the days that followed, the video of Marcus and Danielle's experience spread quickly, sparking conversations about discrimination and the importance of accountability. While the couple hadn't intended to become the center of attention, they were grateful their story had shed light on an issue that far too many people face. The luxury store issued a public apology and announced plans for employee training to ensure such incidents would never happen again. Marcus and Danielle found comfort in the overwhelming support they received from strangers who praised their dignity and resilience throughout the ordeal. For them, the experience wasn't just about one bad encounter. It was a reminder of the power of speaking up and standing firm in the face of injustice. As they reflected on what had happened, Danielle smiled at Marcus. "We didn't just change our day," she said softly. "We might have changed someone else's future."